episode 17 of the Drawing Animal Podcast with Wesley Bear. I am your host, Wesley Bear. On today's episode, because it was January 21st over the weekend, not 21st, 31st, sorry, it was International Zebra Day, so I figured I'd talk a little bit about zebras today. I will start by focusing on the subspecies I just want to point out briefly, and then we'll talk about zebra stripes, because there's kind of been some interesting stuff in the last few years, and I will also provide links, because this has a bit more scientific research and study behind it. So, first, I wanted to start off by talking about one of the otter subspecies of zebra. It's called the maneless zebra. The maneless zebra is a subspecies of the plain zebra. So there are three separate species of zebra: the plains, the mountain, and the grevies, with the grevies being the largest, ranging about 800 pounds. And the plain zebra are usually around 500, a little over 500. And of course, everybody knows zebra, a striped horse that loves to eat grass and is found throughout Africa. Some species are found in southern regions off the Cape, specifically Hartman's mountain zebra, all the way to arid, dry regions of Ethiopia and Kenya, like grevies and maneless zebra. Now, while technically not entirely maneless, the reason that they are called maneless zebras is because basically it's almost reduced down to almost short tufts, and you can barely see any stripes on the mane. So, like a lot of zebra manes, of course, the stripes extend upwards along the mane. But in maneless zebras, because the mane is so short, it tends to be not as well defined, and the stripes are nowhere near as present as they are on most manes. Manes, just to be really brief on that, they're not sure 100% on all the purposes. Some see them as, like, depending on the species, a social status thing, so based upon age, health, status within the herd, they can be a signal because of just how great and big they can get, or they can also be a way of externalizing more heat, because it's more hair for heat to spread, and for neck protection, because a lot of zebras engage in pretty brutal fighting, and so those manes, which are often very stiff hairs, unlike, of course, horses, provide some layer of protection if the biting gets intense around the face or neck. But there's been much more research and much more interesting studies surrounding zebra stripes, and that's the main thing I wanted to talk about today. So, there was a study multiple studies within the last 10, 15 years or so, that was all kind of compiled nicely in a mostly more clear, grounded general article in the BBC in 2019, and that's what I'll be drawing forward from mostly, and I'll be pulling from that link, and also you can hear more about it also on another podcast that I really like called Life, Death, and Taxonomy, which also covered this in a bit more detail. But there is, interestingly now, about 3 or 4 theories on why zebras have stripes. The most common theory that was popular for many, many decades was that stripes were mainly used as or served rather, a sort of camouflage, because black and white against animals who usually can only see in black and white, like leopards and lions, across a very striated grassland with tall grasses, would be very hard to spot, has often been the prevailing notion. However, this theory has been drawn into question. There have been several studies done to examine the whole purpose of manes within different stripes within a different region, how they can they function well in a more arid environment, more grassy environment, times of day, and so all these sorts of things have kind of led to a somewhat more mixed reception on the idea that the primary focus of stripes, or purpose, or helpfulness of stripes, is predator confusion. But there has been, and this was one of the big focuses of the article, was a study that has been done to say that maybe the confusion is less on large predators like lions, but rather on actually houseflies. There has been some study to indicate, because of the nature of the way insect eyes are built, that they cannot see those kind of striped, kind of weird variations in color that kind of contrast like that very well, and it adds confusion. Thus, horseflies don't know how and if they can land on such a striated surface. This has also been called into question, but it was a really interesting theory, and again, the article goes in much more detail, as does the podcast, and I will provide links to both. And then the other major one, I believe there might have been kind of a fourth one, but the other one that's often now been theorized is temperature regulation. Because, of course, white and black are very different in terms of color absorption. Darker colors absorb more light. White colors reflect more light. And so there have been some theories to indicate whether or not stripes provide a better source of thermoregulation, because they even in balance out. You have white and you have black. They have actually found that black stripes are maybe about 10 to 15 degrees hotter than where the white stripes are. And it is important to clarify, when we say stripes, that just means the markings. There has also been some debate on what we mean by stripes, because underneath, actually, zebras, like albinos, actually have black skin. So it's more to do with fur, and how things are layered can be a little weird to perceive, but in general view, of course, stripes are perceived as white and black stripes of a zebra. So I just wanted to clarify that in case anybody wants to correct me on the whole stripe issue. Going back to the thermal regulation, the black areas appear to be 10 to 15 degrees warmer. There has also been some indication that on warm days, when they, in order to collect more heat, that the black hairs on the stripes, on black stripes, will actually stand up erect. So, of course, that rays provides more surface area, thus allowing even greater possible absorption. So, those are three interesting theories that have been bouncing around off and on, especially in the last 10 years, when a lot of kind of old ideas about stripes and their function have been called into question. And there's a bit more detail on all this, and you can read the article again. And but I find that all very fascinating, because it really kind of calls into question exactly what is the function of purpose of things. And sometimes I wonder, because I'm a guy who believes that there is a creator, that maybe sometimes we kind of wonder about some of these things and we try to find purpose and meaning in 100% of like this kind of very finite scientific answers and stuff. And some of it may just be that because I believe in God, that God just likes variation in color. I mean, zebras are pretty to look at. I mean, it's kind of nice to have an animal like zebras that are kind of unlike any other horse that you see. Zebras are kind of unique in the patterns they have. I mean, yes, there are other striped animals, but to see that especially in hoof stock in a mammal, and so predominantly a mammal, is other than, of course, tigers, is kind of rare. And so, again, there are a few other animals like this, but such a contrast is just very pretty to look at. And so, sometimes I wonder if we're ever really going to get full answers to all these questions, and whether or not how scientifically distinct and how much of these actually to contribute to actually any great difference in how zebras live and operate. But it's still interesting to think about, and again, link to both that article and the podcast will be in the description. Thank you so much for listening, and hope you have a great day. Enjoy drawing and enjoy nature, and have a great day.